After the success of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, it was only a matter of time before Spyro returned to our consoles. In the late 90s, the cheeky purple dragon had us collecting gems, beating up weird creatures, and rescuing his friends across 3 whimsical platformers filled with all of the hallmarks of what makes the genre so great. When Spyro Reignited Trilogy was officially announced in April, I couldn't help but feel all warm and fuzzy inside because the games hold a special place in my heart. My dad and I used to love playing Spyro together. We'd spend hours exploring the colourful worlds, taking it in turns to set fire to anything and everything. I remember telling him these were coming out, and he was chuffed to bits, as was I, and after finally playing them again, those memories, I'm happy to say, haven't been ruined. With certain remasters or re-releases, you can't help but feel they should be left in the past, but I can report Spyro suits the modern era. Spyro Reignited Trilogy contains Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Revenge, and Spyro Year of the Dragon, and each one slowly improves the gameplay by adding abilities. All 3 look beautiful, and as you get to the 3rd entry, it's a pleasure to see just how much bigger and better the worlds become. There's plenty of detail in the various realms, but also in the character animations, whether in the way the enemies move or in each and every dragon you save. All 3 games are easy to play, and you'll rarely struggle to progress. One of the reminders Crash gave us was just how tough the originals were, but the Spyro Reignited Trilogy is much more relaxed and focused on fun. You can undertake challenges which test the grown-ups, but for kids this is a great set of games that will give them plenty to do, especially if they're used to games like Ratchet & Clank or Super Mario Odyssey. The voice work is funny and entertaining, and the new score adds more spectacle to the remasters, but the camera work still feels unnatural at times. You're constantly having to centre yourself behind Spyro, and whilst you can recenter at any time, it still doesn't work as well as it should. This is particularly frustrating when facing multiple enemies, as you can face unnecessary death when you really shouldn't have to. We originally scored the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version 8 out of 10, but the Switch version of Spyro Reignited Trilogy is the same game as seen on the PS4 and Xbox One. It runs relatively well whilst docked and in handheld, albeit with some minor lagging during the travelling between different worlds. Occasionally after a scene when you're interacting with one of the NPCs, the camera tends to jump a little and you're forced to recenter, and in general the camera gets itself into some awkward positions. As you play through each game in the trilogy, the movement gets a little better, so the same issues start to disappear. But whenever you're in an enclosed space, there's no escaping a poor view of the action. There's also a huge problem with button responsiveness, especially in the original game. There were plenty of times when I tried to shoot flames at an enemy and nothing came out, leading me to losing part of my health. I never had an issue with charging, other than the lack of control also present in the PS4 version, but using flames was a constant problem. Not only that, but trying to glide after a jump was failing quite substantially, and it made me replay the same sections a few times. It was such a shock as I never had that issue on the PS4, making it rather disappointing on the Switch. Visually it's still a pretty game, but detail does feel sharper whilst in handheld mode. It's still lovely to look at whilst you're playing docked, but it's not as crisp. If it wasn't for the problems with the controls response time, I could easily play through these games again. However, if you're only interested in playing for the portability factor, it's still decent enough to take with you on your travels.